Well, space may not be too far away after all. Today I'm here with Andrew Chanin. He's the CEO and co-founder of ProcureAM. ProcureAM is an exchange-traded product issuer that launched the world's first pure-play space ETF. Andrew, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Tell us why now is the time to invest in space.
There are certainly a lot of things going on in the world today, and markets have been volatile. But one thing that we've actually noticed is the desire of governments to continue spending on space. So while you may hear of governments doing things like bailouts and stimulus packages, one thing that they've continued to stand by is their commitment to their space spending and their space budgets. Last week, we even heard President Trump came out with a new space order that is essentially the US government giving the permission of US citizens and companies to go and actually extract resources from both the moon and asteroids alike.
Andrew, you teamed up with industry legend Bob Toll to launch ProcureAM. Can you tell us about the firm and what kind of services you guys offer?
Well, I'm very fortunate to be working with Bob Tull. He is a legend and a veteran in the ETF industry. And so every day I feel like I'm learning an incredible amount from him. But when we teamed up, we really wanted to have a new vision for an exchange traded product company. To us, it wasn't just either launching our own products and that's it, or helping third parties and just being a service provider. We really wanted a well-rounded company. So at the top, we have our holding company, Procure Holdings, but we actually have three wholly owned subsidiaries. One that we're known for, which, yes, you mentioned, has issued UFO and is helping third parties launch their own products. But we also specialize in exchange traded product consulting as well as financial intellectual property. And we find that as a way that we'll be able to not just push forward the different ideas that we have, but help others in the financial world, whether they are new entrants or existing entrants that are trying to get new products to market. We want to be able to help them in those endeavors.
Yeah, you're touching now on my next question. I want to talk about UFO. It's the world's first pure play space ETF. So tell us all about it.
Well, we launched this fund almost a year ago, actually, and we were really thrilled to be the first to be able to bring this first pure play fund to the market. And for me, the space industry is one that has had mass confusion or differing understanding of what the space industry is. Yet it is one that is extremely crucial to our everyday lives. So yes, space may seem so far beyond our reach that it's something that's difficult to understand or grasp, but it is incredibly important in our everyday lives. So just looking at your smartphone wouldn't work in the way that it does today without space. So you think of things like the way you get your Uber and the way that your phone is telling time and other things. Well, so much of that is actually based on GPS technology. So GPS is a satellite-based technology, and without it, we wouldn't be able to use our Ubers or figure out how to get from point A to point B using different mapping services. So it is something that's extremely important to us, but it goes so far beyond just how it's helping us as individuals, but for communications, for secure communications for governments and defense organizations. Space is something that is absolutely essential in order for them to go about their everyday businesses. And then just seeing where potentially space can be in the future is, I think, what gets us so excited for the overall industry.
You're getting ahead of me now, Andrew. That was my next question. What is your long term outlook on the space industry moving forward?
So, in my opinion, we are still in early days of the space industry. Even though the space program has existed for decades, we sent the first people to the moon in the late '60s, and here we are today, 50 plus years later. And I think I get most excited about some of the new technologies that we're seeing today, as well as just kind of the widespread interest that we're seeing from entrepreneurs and futurists and innovators from around the world. So, from once, taking a step back, in the early days of the space industry, it was almost completely government funded. And now you look at today, and that represents mainly, roughly about 20% of overall space spending is now coming from the governments, which shows us that the commercial industry has picked up an incredible amount. And looking back at the stats from the previous full year, we noticed that the space industry totaled over $400 billion industry. And so that was a new record for the space industry. But what we're seeing now, as far as technologies have evolved, is that we're seeing reusable rockets, and we're seeing the cost of actually launching goods into outer space decreasing significantly. So what that all does is it actually allows more companies and more technologies to be tested. So the less it costs to send something into space, the lower your costs are going to be to entry into the space industry. So each of these things are helping to lower the cost and allow for new technologies to be expanded upon and tested. And so this could create a whole new wave of technologies. On top of that, we were talking about kind of government spending and military spending and endeavors and whatnot. And I think right now, we're kind of seeing this space race that we haven't seen since the early days of the space industry, where before it was kind of more glamour projects or patriotic types of missions to say, hey, we're able to do this. Now we're saying we want to and we need to do these certain things. We're at a very interesting time right now where there are, many potential catalysts. It's difficult to determine the timeline, but the future of space will be the technologies that are built out today, the ability to reduce the cost to open up the space economy for more players to enter, and what the governments and militaries are going to do to build out this new frontier of defenses for their country and for the planet as a whole.
Space feels closer and closer every day, it seems.
It seems like it every day, and where I am now, currently out of New York City and out in the mountains, having less light pollution and being able to see the stars every night that it's not cloudy makes me feel closer to space than ever as well.
Excellent, Andrew Chanin. I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Julie.
For more information on ProcureAM, you can visit ProcureAM.com.